Absolute banger. Light heavyweight in our main event. Coming up this weekend, we have the former title challenger who had a great claim, and especially one judge in agreement that he won the belt, Thiago Marreta Santos. And listen, if anybody's walkout that's out there in this world to get excited about, it is Thiago Santos. He's got his own song. It's a feel-good one. He danced a little bit, maybe a little bit less than he used to, but he does dance to it nonetheless. Coming into this fight, winning his last time out in a 5-round atmosphere, taking on Johnny Walker, where, to his credit, Thiago Santos didn't necessarily fight the average Thiago Santos fight. It wasn't just blood and guts and somebody gets knocked out at the end. He took a much more measured approach to it, and you like to see that game plan out of him, especially after the knees were wobbled and ruined against John Jones, and then he was on the losing end, after which he takes on Glover Teixeira and Alexander Rakic. So a good bounce back for Santos off that 3-fight losing streak. But for Magomed Ankalaev, since losing in his debut to Paul Craig, he's looked amazing. You look at the 5-on-in, Dacha Lungiambula head kick knockout. Iwan Kutsalaba, did he knock him out? Didn't he knock him out? Well, he did the second time out. And then he beats Nikita Krylov, where he loses the first round and gets out grappled, but he rallies to win, and then he actually works his wrestling into that fight. And his last time out against Volkan Oezdemir, knocks him down in the first round. Volkan rallies in the second round. Third round, Ankalaev is the one that ends up getting it done. But ultimately, for Ankalaev, this isn't just a big test in taking on Thiago Santos. I think this is a big test going from 3-round fights to 5-round fights for him, because he can be measured in his approach, and I do like that, especially in a fight like this, but I think it will be a tough test, especially for him, because he can get beaten first round, second round. How is he going to react in the championship rounds if we make it there?
I always look at Ankalaev as someone who can kind of give rounds away, and that does worry me when he does start to fight these upper level guys at 205 pounds, because the weight class is sort of having a bit of a metamorphosis, if you will. A lot of the older fighters are starting to age themselves out, and you have these newer fighters like Ankalaev, like Jamal Hill's another guy who's starting to work his way to the top. And Jamal Hill's going to get brought up more than once as I break this fight down, but what Jamal Hill has showed is, I'm extremely aggressive, and unless I make a grave mistake with my fight IQ, I'm always going to be that aggressive fighter who has really good knockout power. Ankalaev has a lot of those same strengths, but sometimes he doesn't have the aggression to go along with them, and it is just sort of questionable as an observer. Go back and watch the Oezdemir fight. He has him dead to rights early in that, has him hurt, he's really outstriking him comfortably, but sort of settles into the fight, and I don't mean that in a positive way. Normally we mean that as, oh, he was a little wild early, but now he's a little bit more refined. Ankalaev will get off to a lead and almost kind of coast as the fight goes on. It'll be interesting to see how he fights Thiago Santos, because for Santos, we brought up the knees, I don't know how many times. People are probably sick and tired of us talking about ACLs here, but Santos has looked better being more removed from that injury. I do feel like he has gotten his legs under him a little bit more as of late, and the fight against Johnny Walker did prove that. I know he didn't finish Walker, and that might not be the best thing. Like, even though he did beat him, he didn't look great in the win, but he showed, I would say, improved lateral movement in that fight, and he had a pretty good gas tank too, to where he was able to lunge in from long distance and land his own shots without eating big counter shots as a result. But for Santos, this is how I guess I'll drop it back off to you. Like, where do you look at him in his career? Like, do you think he thinks, hey, if I beat Ankalaev, I'm right back up there for a title? Because I know the division is quite wide open. I don't still look at Thiago Santos as being a guy who can get up to the title shot. Maybe I'm putting more of a limitation on him than I should, but you see him lose to Rakic. It was a boring fight. It's not like Rakic really went out there and beat the brakes off him by any means, but we know what he looks like against Glover. He can't hang with him in the grappling department, although he did look good on the feet. He was able to drop him a couple times. I worry about Santos at this stage of his career, although I can fully admit this fight against Ankalaev is a very winnable one for him.
Like a year and a half ago, he drops Glover, rocks him in a couple of spots, and then even before that, we back it up. Now we're 3 years removed from his fight against Jan Blachowicz, where he looked really good at the start, and then Jan just had that Polish power across the cage.
Well, he knocked out Jan.
He knocked out Jan, and he looked really good in that fight. And for Jan, he has the Polish power to come back and then end up as champion. But you look at it for Thiago Santos, obviously that John Jones fight changed something in his style a little bit. Like, he was aggressive against Glover.
The strength in his knees, probably.
The strength in his knees and those weird capoeira videos before that were definitely old videos.
I have a friend named Leah who tore her ACL, and she's like, when it's cold outside, my knee hurts. Like, I couldn't imagine being a high-level athlete and still dealing with an injury like that when you're so reliant on your explosiveness.
But it's one of those things, too. And I mean, from the John Jones fight in July 2019 to then fighting November of 2020... and still being a little tender. I mean, again, Santos did look good on the feet, so we have to give him credit where it's due, but it was more with his hooks that he was able to throw. It wasn't necessarily big-time boxing combinations, and that's the thing with Thiago Santos. You're not going to see like 3-4 punch combos out of Santos. It's very much 1-2 power shot, reset. I'm going to throw a spinning wheel kick like we were able to see in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada all those years ago. You love to see that. That one against Jack Marshman, a performance of the night bonus for him. But for Thiago Santos, a wild end cap to his career at 205 pounds. Obviously, fight of the night against Anders where I don't know how that was a fight. Like, he beat the brakes off.
It was a good fight, though. Anders had a couple moments.
He beats Jimmy Manuwa. That was a wild fight. And then the fight against Jan Blachowicz, obviously a big-time one. But for me, to answer it, for Santos, kind of in no man's land. Like, I think a win for Ankalaev gets him a title shot. I think a win for Thiago Santos gets him another guy, like a rematch against Racket. Like, it's really is tough to say. So, for me...
Anthony Smith at 205 would be a fun fight for them to revisit.
Rematch. I always love that one. I agree with you there. So, I look at this matchup. For Magomed Ankalaev, we talk about the ranges that both of these guys fight in. For you, do you think a matchup here stylistically benefits Ankalaev a little bit more than it does for Santos?
It's really going to be interesting because I don't hold Ankalaev striking in the highest regard. He's a good striker, but again, the lack of volume really does concern me, especially when he does fight these other primary strikers. And I'm going to bring up Jamal Hill's name again because if he fought someone like Jamal Hill, like, that's the type of opponent that would worry you if you are an Ankalaev supporter, because if Ankalaev starts out really strong and just kind of coasts afterwards, well, Jamal Hill's going to keep on moving forward, throwing his power shots, trying to find a way to end the fight no matter what. So for Ankalaev, I think this is an opportunity to really prove to us that, wow, he could fight for a title, or maybe he could just be an average ranked light heavyweight, because I think he has to look good in this fight for me to really take him as a contender seriously. I don't think just a win will be good enough for me to think, wow, Ankalaev all of a sudden is destined for the top 5, and the odds are wild on this fight, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know why Ankalaev is the sizable favorite that he is, because I think there's a world out there where this fight follows the exact same script, and I mean the exact same script as the Johnny Walker one, where you have two guys who realize that they both have power, who are both a little bit hesitant on the outside, because, like you said, Santos at this stage of his career isn't the same wild man who's just going to rush his opponent, and Ankalaev...
Wish he was.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? And Ankalaev, he'll either have a slow start and start to build in his fights, or have a strong start and start to slow in his fights. Either scenario is going to give Thiago Santos opportunities to land his own punches and his own power shots, and that's why I do think this fight is very close on paper, but I do think that when it is at long range, I think the kicks of Ankalaev, especially to the leg, are going to give Santos problems at this stage of his career.
Kicks to the leg of Ankalaev, he is a striker with his kicks where he can mix it up to all three levels, not just to the leg, not just to the body.
Dacha.
His head kick, I mean, the front kick to Dacha, the kicks that he's able to land, they're absolutely insane. When he throws his combinations too, he's the type of guy that's incredibly precise with his boxing as well. You like to see that out of Ankalaev. He's been in the States for a couple weeks if you look at his Instagram, so no issues there. We look at the odds for this one. Ankalaev open, a minus 155 or thereabouts. Minus 466 as of now on Best Fight Odds. The average for Santos open plus 135, plus 346. If we have a look at Tapology, I mean, listen, it's going to end up being a surprise to us as it is to you. I'm going to say over under, Matt, 87.5% Ankalaev.
I'll say under, but he'll be the favorite.
92% of 703 total votes going with Ankalaev, 52% by decision, 38% by knockout. So, Matt, again, like, it really is.
This fight to me is much closer than anybody else is making it out to be right now. Like, the opening odds made a lot of sense for me because, honestly, Ankalaev is still somewhat unproven. I know he beat Oezdemir, and he has looked good, but again, we talk about middleweight and light heavyweight as being two of the weaker divisions. When you're only beating borderline ranked guys in these divisions, and you're barely doing it, it does make me really question you when you do make that step up into the sort of primetime competition levels.
So we throw it on over there to the YouTube community tab. What is it? 533 votes so far. 87% Ankalaev. Drew Cliff 82 saying, I really hope Ankalaev, he should win, and I feel that he's better for the division. If he wins, he should face Rakic for the number one contender. Another fight they should do is Anthony Smith versus Jan. I'd be down for that one too. I'd sooner see Santos versus Smith as the rematch. Selman Bundy saying Magomed Ankalaev lock, right place, right time. Thiago aging. And the Man Cave saying, who was there in the chat for question mark kicks and for the side kick, give me Ankalaev to win via decision. Anthony saying Thiago Santos, LOL, just kidding. So trolling as it is. I like Ankalaev in this matchup, but again, yeah, those odds give me heavy pause as he is a heavy favorite because I like the combinations. I like the kicks. With Santos, he used to be able to just burst forward and really end guys' nights quick, and he was able to go in there.
Manson fight where he just sprints across throwing that like uppercut over and over again.
Yeah, there's so many things to like out of that burst, out of the explosiveness, but with the legs where they're at, with the age, it does scare me that way. And with Ankalaev, again, beating Paul Craig until he gets submitted, and every other fight he's had. The thing that scares me with Ankalaev, if you really, really like him at that price point, is against Krylov, he loses the first round and gets out-grappled. Now he comes back in that fight. Against Volkan Oezdemir, he nearly has him finished, and then he coasts, and then he loses the second round, so he has to win the third round. Like, these aren't things that I like to see out of a guy when he's facing, like, 20 to 10 guys. Now we're taking on the top guys, but it is light heavyweight. It's a weaker division.
Jurek Prochazka came onto the scene, and I felt very comfortable saying this guy's going to be eventually in a title picture at some point, or at least be in a long-time main event picture, if that makes sense. He can main event many Fight Night cards. For Ankalaev, he's only in this position because of his opponent. Like, Thiago Santos is the A side for this fight, so Ankalaev really does need an impressive performance to really get people on his side to take him seriously in this division. I think he's going to get the win, but I gotta be honest. And I don't often say this, I don't think this is going to be a great fight. I really do think this is going to be a low volume, very methodical, and I know that's weird to say that that's going to give Thiago Santos a chance to win this fight, but I do see a world where Ankalaev wins round 1, might even drop Santos round 2, and then just sort of coast. And maybe the significant strike numbers will be like 13-9. They'll be really close every round, you know what I mean? And at the end, it'll be, split decision, Thiago Santos wins. Because you'll have 2 rounds definitely for Ankalaev, 3 rounds that were pretty 50-50, but we all know how judges are nowadays. I'm going to pick Ankalaev, but boy, do those odds scare me.
Big time fight coming up this weekend in the main event. Both of us going with Ankalaev to maybe get a title shot, maybe end up in a number 1 contenders bout. And it is interesting when you look at these rankings. Both of these guys up near the top of the division. Thiago Santos at 5, Ankalaev at 6. Ahead of them, you have Smith, Rakic, Prochazka, and Jan Blachowicz. And for Prochazka, that title shot. Ooh,
I'm so excited for that fight.
What a fight with Glover Teixeira. A big one on the horizon. You let us know down below in that comment section. Get it popping all week long. We'll have question mark kicks 2 hours before the prelims. That question mark kicks parlay. I mean, we're just putting it on a tee and hitting that one out of the park the last couple of weeks. Big opportunity coming up this weekend with 14 fights, the debuts, the second looks. It is a big-time Fight Night card, Matt. I can't wait for it.
It's going to be a good one. This is by far the best Fight Night card of the year, and I hope we're going to enjoy it.
Toss a like, toss a sub if you haven't already, so you can keep it locked in with Fight Night picks. And as we always say,
let's get into it.